As we're continuing, of course, with the stories that made the headline, apart from the speech, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's speech that you have just seen on your TV, on your phones, on your tablets, and it was a well-cut speech of economics, of security, and then of the COVID-19 jab. Let's discuss the COVID-19 jab a little bit. Now, Uganda received over 964,000 doses of AstraZeneca, and they received, on top of that, of the 966, in the middle of it, was also 1,000 of the jabs that came from India. Now, we have China and India who have participated in giving us the vaccine, and we so far have around 1,215 Ugandans that have been vaccinated. For you who watched Museveni's speech yesterday, he gave all these details. Now, 1,215 people have been vaccinated, and Yoweri Kaguta Museveni notes that we only have 24 people who are in hospitals as we speak, and only 8 of them are critical, and the rest of them are not critical. Asked by a lot of people why Yoweri Kaguta Museveni did not get the jab, yes, yet his counterpart from Rwanda, Kagame, got the jab. Here's his explanation. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni said, in his own words, that he was waiting for the Ugandan vaccine to get ready to be used, because he talked about 4 vaccines that he was looking at and asked him to investigate about to see which one is the best for him to use. There's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is coming out. Now, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a one-time jab that the president said he's thinking about, because the AstraZeneca is a 2-time jab. So you receive it once and then you have to re-receive it in order for you to be fully vaccinated. So he says there's vaccine from China, there's vaccine from Germany, there's vaccine from all over, and he's thinking, which one should I use? And people are asking, why doesn't he use the one that is from the AstraZeneca that Ugandans are using? Why doesn't he use that, just like Jen Ruth Acheng did, to show Ugandans that this particular vaccine is very safe for everyone to take? He, however, said he doesn't see that he's at a risk of COVID-19, because even if some people in the State House tested positive for COVID-19, the White House is big enough for people to be spaced, it's big enough for people to be isolated, and that's why he's still safe, and the system is protecting him and Janet Kataha Museveni from getting COVID-19. We so far have 40,000 cases of COVID-19 in our country. We have 334 deaths of COVID-19. However, we also have 12,000 of people who have been healed or discharged. And President Museveni said even before the vaccine, we were healed and we were healing from COVID-19. He said there's no need to lose the focus on the vaccine that Uganda is creating, because it is going to come one way or the other sooner or later. You're going to hear news that Uganda has its vaccine and we're going to export that vaccine to Jifunemu Sente. And he says the only hindrance is the slaves. He tagged and called them slaves who are in Uganda, who think Uganda cannot produce this vaccine. And he also said there are Eastern powers who are saying, Uganda cannot produce this vaccine. Tebalina power. Ate, why are Ugandans producing vaccines anyways? So he says those are the questions that are raging in people's minds. But he says this vaccine will be created and Ugandans will be vaccinated, because we're spending $17 in buying some of this vaccine that, of course, is not coming as aid to our country. Now, that is the conversation when it came to the speech of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and, of course, the speech of Robert Kyagulanyi, who also addressed his people, or the NUP members or the NUP supporters during this weekend. However, social media, Twitter, you know how funny people can be. And they were asking Robert Kyagulanyi, why don't you extend your speech to maybe some other time, because we want to watch Arsenal. Arsenal is playing with Tottenham. Can you extend your speech so we can watch that game? Now, for the Arsenal fans, congratulations, 2-1 against Tottenham. Aren't you proud of Arsenal, huh? Well, aside from, of course, the speeches, there goes the football match for the Arsenal fans who celebrated their win yesterday. I mean, how would it be if Tottenham had beaten you 5-1, huh? I'm thinking about how Arsenal fans would react, given that at that particular time, they had to choose whether to watch Museveni's speech or to watch Robert Kyagulanyi's speech or watch the Arsenal-Tottenham match. They were confused. And see, when you're in the middle of watching NUP and then Tottenham beats Arsenal, and then you're like, oh, I should have watched and things would be better. All those things go through your mind. But hey, congratulations, you actually made it. Now, the other conversation that made sense for me in news and that I picked among the very many articles that were running through the news is, of course, Mutebire's reinstatement as the head of Bank of Uganda. He has been given an extended 5 years term. Remember, Mutebire has been the head of the Bank of Uganda for quite some time. And the conversation in social media platforms is, why is it that he is being put as the head and in another term, yet he has been there for 21 years, and now he is very weak? Because this is what happened. When the Parliamentary Vetting Committee called in Mutebire to come so that they talk to him and ascertain whether he will be able to run with Bank of Uganda for another 5 years, he used the back door. Now, after he used the back door to come into Parliament and not the front door, his handlers asked media not to take his pictures and not to take footage of Mutebire. And of course, there were allegations and talk that Mutebire was carried from his car to the Parliamentary House. However, these allegations were denied by the people who were present, and they say that unlike what people are saying, Lutamaguzi confirmed that Mutebire was walking with his stick, usually like he did. However, he was not carried into the Parliamentary House. I'll repeat, Mutebire has been the head of the Bank of Uganda for 21 years, and adding on this, he would have been there for 26 years. And the question is, isn't there any other Ugandan who is able to handle the finance and Bank of Uganda and money and printing of money and currency of Uganda? Well, the Parliamentary Vetting Committee, that included, among others, Lutamaguzi, Flavia Wekwaso, and Rebecca Kadagga, said that Mutebire, Emmanuel Mutebire, is very smart, and that his mind is still functioning very well, and there's no reason for taking him out yet, even though he seems weak, even though he's now old, even though he's a little bit sickly. There's really no reason to take him out because he's still very, very smart in his mind. They say they gave a number of questions to Mutebire to answer, and he answered them without thinking, without trying to, take the back doors like he did when he was entering Parliament, without any excuse. And they were satisfied with his answers, and they put him back for another 5 years. Also, Martin Okoth-Ochola has been granted another 3 years as the Inspector General of Police. Congratulations, Martin Okoth-Ochola. But we're still going to follow up on the Emmanuel Mutebire story to see if he is actually able to run the Bank of Uganda for another 5 years health-wise. Will he be able to handle it? Because if the media was stopped from taking pictures and videos of Mutebire, what does that mean? That means that his situation is a little bit dire, but the Parliament insists his mind, his brain, his reasoning capacity is up to standard, and he can still run that department. What do you think? Was it right to retain Mutebire, or should we think about putting someone else to run Bank of Uganda affairs? Has he done a good job while he was there as the head of Bank of Uganda, or he wasn't the right person? These are the questions that are running through our heads. The other headline that got my attention, of course, is Rebecca Kadagga's conversation over the speakership with Olanya and now the Chira Municipality Member of Parliament, who are all seated there and saying, we are going to vie for this position of the speakership of the 11th August House. Now, the question is, imagine that Rebecca Kadagga did not go through this particular session of passing as the head of the Member of Parliament for Kamuli, woman Member of Parliament Kamuli. Imagine if she hadn't gone through. That means that she would not be going back to the August House. She'd finish this term and leave. But now that she's there, that means the competition is trickier. Let's go for a break. But when we come back, we'll be discussing what exactly the plan in the NRM CEC or NRM caucus was about Rebecca Kadagga taking over the position of speakership for 10 years. Stay with us. We'll come back to that.